We call these sessions Ordinary Heroes, Extraordinary Stories, but I'm sure you'll agree these gentlemen are anything but ordinary. A big round of applause again. Deep and Vijay, thank you so much for sharing those very personal and very inspiring stories with us. Our next panel of eminent personalities will discuss how individuals and corporates can reinvent their purpose. Beyond the often heard CSR mantras of do well and do good, this session will examine what it will take to achieve real, meaningful, and sustainable change in the mindset of the learner and the corporate leader. To moderate this discussion, I'm going to invite my dear friend and someone who has just been introduced to us by Vijay, who's found a way to do well and to do good, Mr. Ravi Sreedharan. Ravi, if I could ask you to come up on stage. I want to tell you that you can send in your questions for this panel through the application, so please do so. I'm now going to embarrass Ravi with a little bit of an introduction. Ravi is an IIM alum who, at the peak of a successful international career in banking, decided to give it all up and switch to social work 5 years ago. He was the gentleman in the yellow T-shirt in Vijay's photograph, in case he's looking a little bit different now. In these 5 years, he has worked in the development space across India. He tells me that he's now stayed in over 180 districts of the country. Based on his experience, he is now working on a very interesting and ambitious project that has the scope to positively impact the entire social sector in India. In keeping with our theme of reinvention and doing good, I'm requesting Ravi to start by talking about his unique idea and how the IIM alumni can be involved. After he does that, he's going to be joined here on stage by the panel, Dr. Mukund Rajan, Chief Ethics Officer, Tata Sons, Professor Anil Gupta, founder Honeybee Network, whom we had the pleasure to meet earlier, Mr. Liang, Deputy Principal, Singapore Polytechnic, and Mr. Deep Joshi, NGO activist and Magsaysay Award winner. Ladies and gentlemen, Ravi Sreedharan.
Still a little overwhelmed emotionally by Vijay Santanam's drawing rather fond memories of the way he's recovered, and he's done things which fully capable and fit individuals like me probably have not even managed to do half of what he's done. So thank you, Vijay, for that mention, and thank you for showing a healthier and younger photograph of mine. I just want to talk, like Venika said, about an idea that I'm working on. I want to start by saying that the development sector in India has a problem. And the problem is that there is an acute shortage of leadership and management talent in the development space. And this is not to do with there being a lack of good talent or good people to work in. It's a systemic issue. And by systemic issue, I mean that there are two types of people who come into the leadership roles. One is the specialists who come from the development sector, and a lot of them are really not sort of prepared for organization building. And unfortunately, all social work happens within organizations. If you don't know how to build organizations, scale organizations, that work can never see the scale and sustainability that it needs. And then there are people like ourselves who come from the business management side. And very often we use ideas and principles which are probably less appropriate for the social sector. And thereby, there's this gap that exists on good leadership and management talent. And this is not just my view. I've spoken to at least 100 people, including some of the panelists who are going to join us in a bit, and they all believe that this is an issue. And if we can address this issue, it can make a huge difference to the entire development space in the country. And there's billions of dollars being spent in that space. An interesting fact that I learned recently, I still need to confirm it because these days on WhatsApp you get a lot of messages, but one of the messages I did read was that more than 50% of the CEOs of listed companies in India come from the IIMs, which was quite a staggering thing for me. And it just struck me that what we are trying to do, and we're trying to build this institution which will be an aspirational, high quality, iconic institution. It's going to be called the Indian School of Development Management. And the Indian School of Development Management, which is ISDM, is going to try and do for the development sector what the IIMs did for the business and the corporate sector. Of course, for this work to happen, we all know a lot of the success of the IIMs lies in the quality of talent that they're able to attract, and then the ecosystem that gets built around it with faculty, with recruiters, with research, with industry bodies, and so on and so forth. So we need to build that whole ecosystem. And the starting point for building a whole ecosystem, if one looks at management studies historically, whether it's the Harvards or Whartons in the US or the IIMs in India, it starts with iconic aspirational institutions that attract bright youngsters to join. So we want to build an institution of that caliber in the country, but that's going to produce future CEOs and leaders of the development sector. We've progressed quite a distance, and our short-term programs for people already working in NGOs and corporates will start by about August of this year. And by next year, in 2017, we are hoping to start the postgraduate program for development management. Something that makes this endeavor particularly unique, and I haven't come across any such story anywhere in the world, and some of you might think it's foolhardy, is that this is being attempted by a bunch of professionals, mostly who are IIM alumni, none of whom come from big wealth. Most institutions across the world have been built by people who had a lot of wealth and started with that. So this is quite a unique sort of a journey, and our ability to sort of pull this off and to succeed will really have a lot to do with the support we receive from fellow professionals, fellow alumni, who have so far been very helpful. I mean, the initial people have been our batchmates, but we are counting on that support, and we believe we can pull this off. We've chosen ourselves to be a Section 8 not-for-profit company, and the reason to do that is to be a role model NGO in ourselves and put ourselves up to the highest levels of transparency, scrutiny, governance, and compliance. I'll just close by inviting all of you. Like I said, it's a journey that's only going to happen with a lot of you joining, to sort of come on and be part of the journey and hopefully leave a legacy that will continually make a difference to the large sums of money being spent in the development sector in the years to come and make a huge difference to society. And you could come on to a website that we have. It's called www.isdm.org.in, ISDM being Indian School of Development Management. And you could sort of register yourselves and put your names there. And we need all sorts of contributions. So we need time, we need money, we need introductions to people who could be very valuable. You could be sounding boards. So whatever it is. So how we will tap your value, you can leave it to us. But if you feel this is an idea that you'd like to be associated with, please come onto our website and register. So I'm going to stop that because I don't want to come in between you and the illustrious panel that we have who are going to join us in a minute. So I'm going to request our panel to come on board, and then we'll start our discussions. Professor Gupta?
Yeah.
Oh, you're here. You came from the other side.
Hello.
Sorry. So we've got another 37 minutes left, and you've got a phenomenally illustrious panel. I wish each of them had 15 minutes to talk. Unfortunately, we don't. So I'm going to really kick this off as quickly as I can without losing much time. I'm going to request each of the panelists to come and say a little bit about the work and what they do, and their thoughts on this whole idea of what does it mean to do well and do good. I'm going to start by calling Deep Joshi. I remember long back speaking to somebody at Pradhan, and Pradhan is one of the most esteemed organizations in the development sector in India, and Deep and others were the inspiring forces behind that, and they had set up this place. I'd call Deep the father of professionalizing social work in the country, and he'll share more about that. But in Pradhan, you've not worked in social work unless you've worked in a place with a pin code that does not have 0 or 1 in it. That's what I've heard, Deep. I don't know if that's correct, but I'm going to request Deep to come and share his experiences and talk a little about what is
going.
You can do it from there, that's
okay.
fine.
Thank you very much, Ravi. Thanks the organizers for having me here. The organization that Ravi talked about is actually Pradhan, not Pradhan. Pradhan is a headman, whereas Pradhan is to exchange, to give. And that's the name that the organization that I invested my time in is called. When I grew up as a college student during the 60s, doing well meant that by the time you retire, you would have earned a decent government pension. I retired without a pension, so I can't be talking about doing well. But I am alleged to have done some good by building this institution called Pradhan, and that's what I'll be talking about in a bit. Pradhan was set up in 1983 by Vijay Mahajan, a class of 81, IIM Ahmedabad, and myself. Vijay is he's full of energy. He's got to invent new ideas every day. So he left in about 8 years' time to invent better ways of doing good. But I stayed on for almost a quarter century to nurture Pradhan into what it is today, and I retired about 9 years ago from Pradhan. So I'll tell you a little bit about what good Pradhan does and how it does it, and how the people that Pradhan works with receive it, experience it, what impact it has on their lives. We work with about 400,000 households, which is about 2 million people, across 7 states in central India, from Rajasthan in the west to West Bengal in the east, via Bihar and Odisha on both sides. We organize women in villages into small groups, and then federate the women into 5,000 to 10,000 member organization. Provide a variety of training on how to work as a group, how to improve their agriculture, livelihoods, and so on and so forth. Link them to various government programs, help them with bank loans and that sort of thing. We've always sort of privileged knowledge and money as the means to bring about development. The idea of Pradhan, why did I start with a different tack, is because I thought, from a little experience that I had visiting a doctor couple in Maharashtra some 40 years ago, that while money and knowledge are important, the most critical is empathy. The head and heart that Anil was talking about earlier. He says DB, and I call it HST, head and heart together. So Pradhan was basically set up to bring educated people, educated Indians, professionals, and the first few professionals were all IIM graduates, except me, people with either a professional degree or postgraduate degree in any discipline, put them through a 1-year apprenticeship program, because when you go to the village, many of them would not even know what a village looks like. So provide 1-year apprenticeship. It includes living in the home of a poor family in the village for maybe up to 3 weeks, learning various task skills. How do you introduce yourself to a village? How do you organize a group of women? How do you teach them how to sit in a circle? Because that's sort of a democratic way of functioning. Various technical skills, agriculture, livestock, some business skills, enterprises, and so on and so forth. And many of them, after they complete their 1-year apprenticeship, work in Pradhan for several years, 5 years, 10 years, till various life cycle changes, life cycle calls take them away. Many continue for, like me, till they retire. The retirement age is 60. There must be about 450 people in Pradhan today, professionals. Another 1,500 have left Pradhan after working there for a while. There is one sitting here right in front of me. Some of them have set up their own NGOs. Some have gone to the civil service. Some have worked with foundations. The Tata Trust have 4 or 5 of them. There are, I think, about 18 of them have set up their own NGOs, which includes 5 IIM Ahmedabad alums. So that's the kind of work that Pradhan does, bringing people to work in villages. What impact does the work that we do in villages has? What it does is, of course, people that we have worked with, these 400,000 odd households, have enough to eat through the year. They have more income. They have assets, economic assets that can earn them a living. The kids go to school instead of toiling in the fields and the factories and the forests. Some of them have got elected to local government bodies like panchayats, and so these are all women. They have better access to government programs and so on and so forth. But the most important outcome, to my mind, is what a woman, Radhabai, told me recently when I met her in her village. I asked them, what is your federation doing? She is a former head loader. She used to go along with her cohorts to the forest to collect sand from streams and load it in a tractor so that it could be sold out. She is now head of a federation of 10,000 Gond women. Gond is a central Indian tribe. And so I asked her, what do you do? She says, Bhaiya, abhi hamara dabdaba hai. That means we have influence, we have voice. And then she went on to explain what that meant. She says, we have managed to stop violence against women in all the villages where we live. We have managed to stop alcohol abuse by our men. The local school, the government school functions now, that the police listen to us. Some of us have got elected to the panchayats. And she said, we are working to stop trafficking of tribal girls into flesh trade. That's a problem across all the tribal areas. In all of that, she didn't mention that she also is a proud owner of a poultry unit, along with many others. And to me, that's the most important contribution that Pradhan makes in the lives of the people, that it brings about a transformation in their sense of agency, a change in their sense of agency, from we can't to we can, from we don't count to we count. We don't have a voice to we have a voice. If you read the Indian Constitution, it has 3 aspirations: liberty, equality, and fraternity. Now, fraternity is rooted in the idea of a common humanity, a shared humanity. The state can't bring fraternity. It can try to do something with liberty, maybe. The market doesn't bring fraternity necessarily. But citizens, human beings like you and me, we can bring about fraternity. We can alone nurture fraternity. So to my mind, that the idea of a shared humanity, the idea of common humanity, has to be the motivation to do good. The way, in case of the Pradhan youngsters who are working in the field, the way they are inspired by the idea. They have nothing to do with these gaunt women. They are not gaunt themselves. Many of them are not women. About 23, 24% of them are women, but the majority are men. So to be able to engage empathically, DBDB or HST, head and heart together, to be able to engage, to make that connect with other human beings because you believe in the idea of common and shared humanity. So that to me is the good that I have had something to do to contribute. And since when you begin to think in terms of doing good, that is the question that you might have to be asking. There's a quote, since Mukund is here and he comes from the house of Tatas, there's a quotation from Jamshedji Tata. He's supposed to have said to his shareholders and to his board that the community is not just another stakeholder in our business. Community is the very purpose of business. Now that to me embodies a belief in shared humanity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deep. Thank you so much. Deep talked about fraternity, and earlier Professor Gupta talked about samvedana. So clearly, somewhere behind all this is this whole shared idea of sharing the pain or sharing the experience of anybody else as if it is your own pain. Professor Gupta, you may not know this, but I've been stalking you for a few years online, listening to your videos, and one of your famous quotes I remember is the minds on the margins are not marginal minds. And I think you've shown that in your work, and you talk about 200,000 innovations. Professor Gupta is just an amazing man, and the kind of work he's done is amazing. And I would call him sort of the father of using innovations to drive social change in the country, and he's been doing some amazing work. I know Professor Gupta spoke a little while ago, but if you could take a few minutes to just talk about your thoughts on what is doing good and doing well mean. And I'm also going to suggest that we should try and keep it short so that we can get some time for a discussion.
Thank you. I will just take a few minutes. There are 4 steps in our life which all of us take: Vyakti, Vichar, Vyavahar, or Sanskar. Unfortunately, 90% of our time spent on talking about people. Little bit about ideas, very little about practice, and rarely does it become value. So first step to me seems to be how to move from Vyakti to Vichar, Vichar to Vyavahar, Vyavahar to Sanskar. And if we have to do that, there is a way in which we can do this. There is a purpose that we need to look for in our life, and this purpose is not very easy to find. And I'm sure each one of us has one unique thing which only we can do. Nobody else can do that. And we need to find out that, the North Star of my life, the star that will pull me through my life, and each one of us needs to find. In fact, 1 hour of your life in a week can open more doors for the innovators than they will be able to open in a year or 2 or 5 or whole lifetime for that matter. So each one of you can open in 1 hour, more doors for them than they can open themselves. A change not monitored, therefore, is a change not desired. And as Ravi said, a mind on the margin is not a marginal mind. If that is the case, how will you join hands with these people? There are lots of ideas. I'll just mention one, because most of you deal with markets. If product is known, market is known, you can do incubation. When both are unknown, you need to go to sanctuary, a sanctuary of innovation. Sanctuary is where chaos is inside, order is outside. In incubator, order is inside, chaos is outside. Bring chaos in your life, bring uncertainty, maximize uncertainty. When we maximize uncertainty, there is no fear of failure. There is absolutely no fear of failure, and I'm absolutely sure that each one of you will find that North Star which will make you to do about how to spread a good word. So if minimum you can do is spread a good word about the innovation. I was looking at the IIMPACT app. Not many of you are putting your thoughts there. Put them. Share them on social media. Talk to your friends. Write a mail to your friends and tell them about what Deep has mentioned, what Dipender mentioned. My goodness, what a story, what Vijay mentioned. So all these stories need to be spread around, and all of you are providing the shoulders for spreading these stories around. I mean, Think of co-creation. Each one of you can co-create. Sitting here, an hour in a week, you know, as this Arnab is telling us from Kolkata, the passenger and the driver both can drive the rickshaw. You can both drive the innovation by working together. So this is possible. This is a triangle, innovation, investment, enterprise. Some of you can provide investment. Some of you can provide entrepreneurial skills. Some of you can provide the connection, the platform. Just provide the connection, and that will make you do good by being well. This is possible. We are the worst enemy of our ideas. All of you have butchered many good ideas of yours. Some of you do that every day. Please stop this habit. Each one of us can make a difference by just valuing our own ideas, and therefore, there is no reason why you should not be just a bee. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Gupta. Moving on to a role model in Singapore for epitomizing the topic, do good, do well, Mr. Hee Jo Liang. He's been at the Singapore Polytechnic as a deputy principal of corporate development. Prior to joining SP, he worked in the education industry in both the public and private sectors. He was the director of the National Computer Board in charge of the education cluster. He was the master planner for IT in education, which was a master plan for the nation of Singapore. And he worked very closely with the Ministry of Education in implementing the ambitious $2 billion plan. When I spoke to him, he mentioned several things. One of the things he talked about was how he finds the kids of today to be very much like zombies. And he's been doing a lot of work to address that. And this is an important point because a lot of us have ideas but don't do anything about it. It's nice to meet people who have ideas and do something about it, and a very important message for all of us. And he referred to something the finance minister also mentioned yesterday about the VUCA environment, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And he's doing a lot of work. I'd love you to share some of your work with the audience and also give your thoughts on the do good and do well topic of the day.
So thank you. I'm from Singapore Poly. I will give from the education perspective. Yeah, what Ravi mentioned, the world that our students are graduating into is a VUCA world. Yeah, where things are moving very fast, where the half-life of a skill is only 5 years. So literally, whatever that we teach our students before they can start work, half of them is obsolete, yeah. And knowledge is a commodity. You can Google anything, actually. And one of the things that scares us the most is like in China, they produce 10 million engineers a year. So we sat down and asked ourselves, how do we better prepare our students to shine in this world, and more importantly, to keep up in this fast-changing world? Then I look at my students, yeah. I spend a lot of time talking to my final year students. I ask them, what excites them? What is their passion? And quite often, you get a blank face. There's no fire in their eyes. There's no passion. And that's when I coined the term, the walking zombies. They go to class, come out of class, go to class, come out of class, go home, have dinner, play computer games, and repeat the same thing. And so they will go through their whole entire education with no sense of purpose. And that worries us, because in a fast-changing world, to keep up, you must have that sense of purpose, and you must have that passion to kind of keep upgrading yourself, have a lifelong learner, like what the Minister of Finance mentioned. So that's when we decided that we need to give our students that sense of purpose. In fact, our finance minister, he was our education minister, he says, value is not just taught, it is often caught. It is the experience that built the character. And we believe in it. In fact, I strongly believe in it. And we started this social innovation program for all our year 2 students, 5,400 of them. We send them out to do social good. And some of them we send overseas to the villages to help them and all that. I'll tell 2 quick stories. One time I led a team. to Buriram, Thailand. It's the poorest province in Thailand. And I have a fashion designer, a boy, and he was there. He was quite upset, yeah. The mosquito was biting, and he was like, why am I here, kind of thing. So we teach our students design thinking, and so the first week, we asked him to immerse in the community, to show empathy. So finally, he got to know the villagers very well. He started to feel for the villagers. And the villagers were building mats using the wild reed. And they were making these quite, I would say, quite boring mats that have not much market value. He kind of feel for the villagers, and he basically told the villagers, I'm a fashion designer. I can help you to design, make it colorful, make it into a passport cover, make it into a bag and all that. And he was like busy working on it, sewing for them and showing them how to sew the passport cover and all that. By the end of the second week, he's the most popular kid in the village. He has friendship bands all the way up to his, the entire arm. And what was most exciting for me is at the end of the 2 weeks, he approached me and said, sir, can I take a gap year, a gap semester? Can I spend 6 months with this village? For a boy who doesn't want to be there 2 weeks ago, to someone who wants to spend 6 months, I thought that was a life-changing moment. I think it gave him a sense of why he studied fashion. Yeah, I think it makes him more committed to studying fashion, but more importantly, I think it builds the professionalism in him. The second story I'm going to share is we also want our students to do technology good. So we encourage our students to build the solar car, to go for the World Solar Challenge, Car Challenge, where they have to drive from Darwin all the way to Adelaide, 3,000 kilometers. 4 weeks, it takes about 2 years to build the car, design and build. 4 weeks before the race, there was a battery fire, and the whole car was burned. I tell you, the kids cried. I have never seen so many kids cry at the same time. Our board of directors, one of our board of directors, basically the CEO of Singapore Powers, he basically told the kids, if you can rebuild this car, I will air freight it for you. And guess what? The kids didn't sleep at all. I mean, they literally lived in the workshop, built the entire car in 4 weeks. What took 2 years, they took it 4 weeks. And even the companies that built the mold of the car came in and said, I will be willing to help. They actually went and participated in the World Solar Car Challenge and finished the 3,000 kilometers.
Wow.
And this is something, yeah. I think what we have taught them is grit. We taught them perseverance. But what we taught them most is that they must have the courage to pursue their passion. Yeah. I think this is to us the most important lesson. And because of all this, we decided to do it in a very aggressive manner. We have a program called the Learning Express, where we send 1,000 of our students out every year to go to the villages to help the villagers to do good. And in the process, many times we find that there's life-changing moments for our children. And one of the things that we find is very important is that we have given our child the creative confidence to dare to dream, and more importantly, to dare to do and to follow their passion. I feel that we have better prepared our students for this fast-changing world, and this is something that we are very excited, and that's why I'm very inspired by Anil Gupta's work, and I really would hope to visit him and see what better way we can kind of come together to kind of transform our students and give them that, sense of purpose, from a walking zombie to someone with fire in their eyes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Going to quickly move on to Dr. Mukund Rajan, who at 46 is much younger than my 34 years experience as a 20-year-old. And he, as you know, is a member of the Group Executive Council at Tata Sons Limited, which, as all of us know, is a $100 billion plus company. Dr. Rajan is the Tata brand custodian and a group spokesperson. So I can't think of a better person to talk about how the Tata Group approaches the do good and do well phenomena. Before I invite Mukund up, I'd like to thank the Tata Group for one of my favorite ad lines, which was, "We also make steel." Mukund.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and I think congratulations to the organizers for bringing together such an amazing group of people and the inspiring stories we've already heard. So the topic of today's discussion is do well, do good, and I'd just like to turn that around a little bit and say do good in order to do well, a conviction that has been really the foundation on which the Tata Group has been built. I play the role of Chief Ethics Officer at the Tata Group, and I also oversee our CSR activities. I'm also the brand custodian, as Ravi mentioned, for brand Tata. And the reason for this unique portfolio is actually quite straightforward. At Tata's, we do believe our brand equity has been built principally on the pillars of ethical conduct and giving back to society. Deep mentioned our founder, Jamsetji Tata, and the core philosophy of the Tata Group that is reflected in that famous statement attributed to him, to the effect that in a free enterprise, the community is not just another stakeholder in business, but is in fact the very purpose of its existence. And this philosophy was further reinforced by the trusteeship concept that emerged after Jamsetji's demise. His heirs bequeathed their entire holdings in our principal investment holding company, Tata Sons, to charities whose sole purpose is to support good social causes. And consequently, the surpluses generated by Tata companies substantially go towards the contributions that these charities are able to make to communities across the world. And that creates a sense of higher purpose, a word we heard quite frequently in the last few minutes, a sense of higher purpose in Tata employees. This sense of purpose has subsequently been hard-coded, I'd say, into the Tata DNA through the Tata Code of Conduct, which enjoins all Tata companies and Tata people to be, and I quote, committed to good corporate citizenship and actively assist in the improvement of the quality of life of the people in the communities in which we operate. And this is why, soon after his appointment as chairman of Tata's in 2012, our current chairman, Cyrus Mistry, re-articulated the group's mission in the following way: to improve the quality of life of the communities we serve globally through long-term stakeholder value creation based on leadership with trust. And in our vision for 2025, Chairman Mistry has laid out the ambitious goal that by 2025, a quarter of the world's population will experience the Tata commitment to improving the quality of life of customers and communities. So as you can see, there is a consistency and alignment in our code of conduct, our mission, and our vision, linked with our unique ownership structure, where we are majority owned by charities, and the belief of our founder in the role of business in the community. As Ravi mentioned, today we are a $108 billion group with operations in more than 100 countries. The Tata brand, rated India's top corporate brand by both Interbrand and Brand Finance, is also the only Indian brand in the global top 100 brands rated by Brand Finance. We have earned the trust of our stakeholders by doing good, and this has ensured our longevity. In 2018, we will celebrate our 150th anniversary, and hence I believe, do good if you want to do well. Thank you very much.
So we've got very little time, so I'm going to just ask one or two questions and maybe address it to two of you at a time. So I'm going to ask a more philosophical question to Professor Gupta and Deep, and that is, a lot of us want to do good, but who are we to decide what is good, and how do we go about deciding what is good, is a question that's sometimes been on my mind. I'd be very interested to hear your perspective, and it'll be very useful also for a large number of our audience who are thinking of what can I do? You know, I have some experiences, I have some talent, I have some.
A good act always raises your self-respect. You feel good about yourself. And that is, to me, the sign of resonance. There has to be a resonance. And there is no need for any confirmation from outside. Nobody else believes in what you're doing, but you feel about it, that this is worthwhile, do it.
Steve, you have anything to add to that?
Well, I think, there is there are lots of things. I mean, the Tata Group is a example, and I'm proud of the fact that it's an Indian company which has this kind of a motto. But there are a variety of things which are not amenable to a bottom line. That is something that we need to be very conscious of. So there are lots of ways of doing good, but we need to be also humble enough to understand that there are things which simply do not have a bottom line. I mean, the women that we work with, if they're fighting against trafficking of girls, can we then say, well, you got your confidence because of the work we did with you, so how about giving my fees to me? I think that's something that we need to be very conscious of, that there are lots of things which can be done by combining good and well. There are an equally large number of things which actually do require to say that I will focus on doing good, well will come by itself. I've never starved, I don't have a pension, doesn't matter. But I have the affection of so many people that even if I didn't have any income, I'm sure I wouldn't starve. So I think one needs to, be conscious that there will be things where you would have to say, I'm going to start doing good because this is something that cannot be done by somebody who needs a return on investment. And that's why it needs me. And well will automatically come.
Thank you. There is a global movement these days, and you might find it interesting to read, on effective altruism. And it's based on a lot of research, effective altruism. And there's a lot of research gone into how people like us can be involved in altruism, and some sort of guidance in terms of what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and some pitfalls. But I want to come back to the other two panelists on, because both of you work in modern, top companies, you work in a developed country. And a question that's come up pretty much in every session that we've had here is, where does technology and digital come into this space? How can that be leveraged for the social good of the society? Is something I'd be very curious to hear from the two of you.
Okay, basically, just to kind of take on what was mentioned just now, was that actually in Singapore Poly, we actually spend a lot of time to say that, okay, what are some of the social concerns that we have? So one of them is aging. Singapore is aging very quickly. But we can do social good and also do well. Yeah? In fact, if you go and look at the aging market, EDB, the Economic Development Board, says that it's a $1.3 trillion market in Asia Pacific alone. Yeah? In fact, what happened was because of that, we actually set up a consortium, a Live Well consortium, Procter & Gamble, Boeing, and all that, 5 companies, Hilron, Mondelez, and Panasonic. And we actually go out to find what are some of the things that we can do to make life more pleasant for the elderly. So an example of travel, air travel. Some of us have problems when we take too long a flight. Can we redesign the chair so that, the elderly people can take long flights? And actually, our student built that chair. And in fact, right now, it's sitting in the Hall of Fame in Seattle, in Boeing. In fact, because of some of these projects that we have done, our student actually got 22 patents pending in US, and 3 of them are awarded. And these are all small little things that we have done for airplane flight that can help to make the experience for the elderly more comfortable, and to take care of some of their health concerns during flights and all that. And this is something that you can do good and as well at the same time do well. Yeah. So actually, one of my boy actually got 2 US patents awarded to him. His name is Hisham. And because he came out with some little devices that actually help the elderly travel.
I've been asked to wind up, but I'm going to ask Dr. Rajan a question because a lot of people have expressed likes. In today's world, can an organization which is 100% ethical do well if it doesn't bend the rules at all?
Absolutely. I think there are many stories I could narrate about the Tata experience where we've actually had to walk away from businesses which we weren't allowed to enter. But in the long run, it's actually worked out to our advantage. I think the most recent example is one that's relevant to Singapore, which is our partnership with Singapore Airlines to create the Indian airline Vistara. For 20 years, we were blocked from the Indian aviation market. But ultimately, I think when the policies were changed multiple times and finally came back to what makes sense, we are back in the game, and I think we're doing rather well. So I think it does take time sometimes, a little longer than you might anticipate, but ultimately it works to the advantage of corporates that stay the line and are committed to the value system.
Thank you, Dr. Rajan. I'm just going to close by summarizing because it says time's up on the screen here. Head and heart together was a big message that came across. We talked about Gati, Vichar, Vyavahar or Sanskar, which I thought was a very nice way of capturing the kind of aspects you need to work in the space, bringing passion to your work, ethical products, giving back to society of the Tata Group. I thought it was a very interesting discussion. I wish we had another 45 minutes, but we unfortunately don't. So I'd like to thank all the panelists and thank the audience for being a lovely audience. Thank you very much.
Love to
How are
stay
you?
in touch here.
Yeah.
Wonderful.